Hey guys, I wanted to provide an up-to-date top 5 paddles for beginners list because there have been some seriously good paddles released this year that are also very good paddles for beginners and intermediate players at beginner-friendly prices. One great thing about paddle innovation and this sport blowing up so much is that beginners don't have to play with poor quality paddles when starting off, and if you do have a low quality paddle already and want to upgrade to a better quality paddle that is still beginner or intermediate friendly, these are definitely the paddles you should take a look at. This is going to be a more brief and to the point review, so let's get right after it. Coming in at number 5 is Friday Pickleball Paddles. These are my go-to for people who want a couple good paddles for a good price, or one paddle and a good backup, and for people who like a variety of fun designs to choose from. I played a lot with these paddles when I first got them and was quite impressed with how they played considering their price. They have a lot of unique color and design options, and when you order through the link in the description below, you can get 2 for $95, making them a really easy recommendation. Some of the paddles that are ahead of these on this list probably play a little bit better as individual paddles, but these paddles are pretty good as well, and for a 2 for 1, they're really hard to beat. In the number 4 spot is the Spartus Apollo. This paddle is a huge hit for players of many skill levels, and it has such a wide sweet spot and high stability that it's hard not to recommend for beginners, particularly with its price of $117 after this channel's discount code. This paddle is highly maneuverable, very forgiving on off-center shots, and packs just a little bit of a punch for people who might enjoy that on harder swings. The Apollo is also made of a 100% Kevlar paddle face. It's the cheapest Kevlar paddle in my database, and it also boasts the absolute highest spin rates recorded among any paddle that I've tested. Really, it's hard to argue against this paddle, but I think 2 reasons it's not a little higher on this list for me is that even though its price is already a really great deal for what you get, the paddles higher than it on this list are just a touch more affordable, and though it's a little nitpicky, I'm so on how this paddle looks, which is also an important factor when you're splitting hairs amongst good paddles. My number 3 choice is the J2 by Honolulu Pickleball Company. This paddle was my top choice for control paddles under $100 last year, and this is still one of the best paddles money can buy in that price range. It comes to just $95 after this channel's discount code, and like the Apollo, it has a very nice sweet spot size, it excels in control, and offers a pretty decent power on drives when you swing harder. The difference here is that the J2 provides a little more reach in its shape than the Apollo, and it has that friendlier price with a totally different look. This paddle also has upgraded Kevlar and titanium versions, the J2K and J2Ti, which are becoming some of the most popular paddles of this year, and offer the option to easily upgrade to one of these 2 paddles if you want just a touch more pop and power at a slightly higher price than the J2. The number 2 paddle on this list is the 6 Zero Quartz. Deciding between this and the top choice on this list for the number 1 spot was very difficult, but suffice it to say, this is a very good paddle for beginners and brings a lot to the table. The Quartz is part of one of the most popular companies in the sport, 6 Zero Pickleball, and with the Quartz, you get a similar look as their popular Ruby or Double Black Diamond, but at a fraction of the price, making it the cheapest paddle on this list at $81 after that PBMed discount code. It's highly maneuverable, and on the 1 to 100 plus maneuverability rating equation that takes into account a lot of things like gross weight, swing weight, balance point, etc., it scored a 32, with 1 being the most maneuverable and quickest filling paddle a person could create. It plays very control-oriented and offers players a lot of forgiveness when taking larger swings or sudden movements that may blast the ball away with more powerful paddles. There are a lot of color options, and these would be great options for people who want a slick-looking paddle that is high in control and offered at a great price, but may not be the right choice for people who want more easily accessible power, or if you want a longer handle than the one-handed handle design here offers. The top paddle on this list for best paddles for beginners is the Monarch Jelly Bean by 11624. The Jelly Bean is part of the Monarch series released by 11624, and I've been seriously impressed with how this paddle plays. All 4 color options of the Jelly Bean stay under that $100 threshold after this channel's PBMed discount code, a price that I believe is an absolute huge value for what you get. Since the Jelly Bean's release, it's been touted as one of the overall best value pickleball paddles by countless reviewers, including Pickleball Studio, Pickleball Pursuit, Farmer Lanky, John Q, and All Drive No Drop, just to name a few. It was released as part of a series of paddles including the Monarch Control, which is the Kevlar version, and the Monarch All Court, which is the more poppy version, and of all 3, the Jelly Bean is actually my favorite, along with being the least expensive of these 3 options. The Jelly Bean has a bit of the best of both worlds, with a wide body shaped paddle face giving it a nice sweet spot, and then the longer 5.75-inch handle that almost gives you the feeling that you are playing with a longer paddle than you actually are, while maintaining that improved sweet spot on the paddle face. It has two thickness options, the 16mm thickness and the 14mm thickness, both of which score very well on the maneuverability scale, placing him in the most maneuverable third of paddles available. The two thicknesses also spin the ball very well, and aside from the Spin King, the Apollo, the 16mm version has the second highest recorded RPMs of the paddles on this list. I would probably recommend the 16mm version ahead of the 14mm version for beginners, as the 14mm version has a slightly smaller sweet spot and will be a little less forgiving on off-center shots, and the decrease in thickness in this particular paddle seems to move away from that ultimate goal of a bigger sweet spot and better control. But the 14mm is a little lighter feeling, so if you have a really young player or someone that really wants that light feel, the 14mm may be the better option. One thing I felt separated the Jelly Bean from the Quartz, which was a close number 2, is the fact that I could generate so much better power with the Jelly Bean, probably due to a combination of the handle length and leverage I could apply, along with the construction of the face itself, which seemed to dampen the ball a little bit less than the Quartz did. And speaking in terms of this paddle's versatility, I actually know quite a few advanced level players who use the Jelly Bean as their main paddle, and they play very well with it. It's definitely more control oriented, and I could personally play with this paddle myself very regularly due to its solid control profile, great reach and leverage from the handle, and still has the capability of generating good power when swinging the paddle with more effort. Though both the number 1 and number 2 paddle are very good, and the Jelly Bean got my number 1 pick, if you're trying to decide between the number 1 and the number 2 paddles on this list, you may pick the 6 Zero Quartz if you want the slightly cheaper option, like the slick cosmetic design, and are okay with the shorter handle, and you might prefer the Jelly Bean if you want a longer handle and reach, want to be able to generate more power on harder swings, or want the paddle with the slightly higher spin rates. And that's my more brief, to the point list of my top 5 paddles for beginner pickleball players. I hope the review was helpful. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments below, and if you've played with any of these paddles, let us know what you think. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you here for the next one.